Hey everyone, it's Scott Hansen from NFL Red Zone reminding you to watch Sports Ballers, the podcast that gets you caught up on everything Washington sports and beyond.
Hello and welcome to the Sports Ballers podcast. I'm Corey Puffett, your host for this evening, joined as always by Eric Meyer and Evan Ash. Thank you as always to our boy Scott Hansen for the awesome promo intro to the show. We got to spend all Sunday with him this past week and it was immaculate. It was glorious. It was so much fun. We're going to get into a little bit of a wrap-up of Week 1 action from the NFL later in the show. Plus, of course, get into some of our Week 2 picks. You'll be able to see all of our Week 2 picks tomorrow on our blog, but we'll get through some of the highlights, the ones that maybe we don't all agree on, or where somebody is really high or really low on things. And we'll talk a little bit about last week's performances in our confidence points rankings. We're also going to get back to what we talked about back at the beginning of the offseason when we made predictions about who would start in Week 1 for all 32 teams. We've tabulated those confidence points now that Week 1 is officially in the books and we know exactly for sure who started each game. We'll get to that. But before we do, we're going to start in college football, where we've got some pretty big games coming this week. Georgia Tech is playing Clemson, 3:30 p.m. on Saturday on ABC.
How is that a big game?
Because it's Evan's team.
It's big to me.
Well,
It's Evan's team.
I don't see Maryland in here. They're playing Illinois.
Well, why didn't you put it in here?
Because it's
You
not a
have
big
access
game.
to Documents.
It's not. I think it was important.
Okay, well, Evan put it in, so I'm going to mention it.
Okay.
Sue me.
It's not a big game.
So, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, Clemson right now is not ranked, which is...
What?
Yes, they are.
Okay, then
Oh,
why
yes,
didn't you
they
put their ranking in there, Evan?
Because that was a loaf. They're ranked.
Yeah,
in the top
they're ranked
six.
number 6.
I was going to say, I was like, how are they not ranked? It's like,
I know
wow,
I know
they must
to
have lost a
Georgia,
lot
but
of games to drop out of the top 25
They lost to number
entirely.
2 Georgia by 7 points, so they just removed them from the rankings.
I was like that was where my intrigue was, honestly, was that apparently somehow they've managed to mess up things so badly that they have gone from being, in the conversation for the college football playoff. In fact, I'm pretty sure I put them in the college football playoff to not even being in the top 25, but they are ranked number 6.
I did also notice that there was no ranking next to the name in the show notes, but I also watch enough college football to be like, yeah, Clemson's clearly ranked number 6, though. I know that. So.
Yes. So that might not have
Clemson
happened
is
had
a-
somebody else been hosting this week.
Unfortunately, bad timing.
But, yeah. Regardless,
Clemson is,
I will rescind my question to Evan because I don't need to ask him what he thinks about this game because, unfortunately, his team is likely going to get trounced on the road against a top 10 opponent.
Yeah, Clemson's a 28.5-point favorite.
Good
so
God.
Georgia Tech hasn't won at Clemson since 2008, and that was Dabo Swinney's very first game when he was an interim coach.
I made some money off of Georgia Tech with a 28-point spread against Clemson, I think last year, where I looked at that number and I was like, no way, that should be like 42. And I was right because Clemson won by like 6 touchdowns. It was outrageous, but I think
put some money on this one this year.
No, Clemson's come back to earth a little bit. They don't have Trevor Lawrence anymore. Their offensive line looks kind of suspect. I still expect them to beat the hell out of Georgia Tech, but 28.5 is a big number. Last year, it was not nearly big enough. This year's a little
You're not
different
an
story.
Ungulale believer.
I believe in him, just not as much as I believed in Trevor Lawrence and the team they had last year.
Fair enough. An actual big game on the docket for this week, also at 3:30 on Saturday. This one on CBS. Number 1 Alabama is on the road facing number 11 Florida. You be watching this game, Evan?
Yes, I will be watching this one.
Even though this is at the same time as your Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets?
Well, he can probably turn that one off pretty quickly.
Georgia Tech is unbearable to watch. I can't watch that team.
So they truly are some rambling wrecks.
It's a wreck, certainly. It's a wreck. Alabama and Florida, it's always a big deal when these two schools get together. They certainly act like they're ducking each other with the SEC scheduling, how it works across the divisions. These two teams met in the SEC championship game last season, in an absolute classic. So we should be in for a good one. This is the season premiere of Saturday afternoon on CBS with the SEC. So whichever game they pick for 3:30 on CBS on Saturday, it's always a big one.
Yeah, I mean, anything within the SEC is going to be a big game. Moving on to the late game, ABC 7:30 p.m. College Game Day will be at this one, as will a good friend of the podcast, James Daly. We'll bring his name up a little bit later on in the show. Number 22 Auburn is heading on the road to face number 10 Penn State.
Yeah, James is an Auburn grad and an Auburn fan, obviously. So he's going a little road trip. Good luck with that. Good luck. I mean, it's not like you can miss State College, Pennsylvania, right? Because it seems like the type of place that you can't end up in by accident. I don't know where they're going to get 110,000 people. Where did these people come from? There's just fields and mountains.
Well, they probably seemingly come from Auburn, Alabama, because that is definitely a road trip. I mean, I know that, Evan, you've made trips to places down south, like to Tuscaloosa, and I guess have you been to Auburn? Have you been to Tiger Stadium before?
I have not been to Auburn.
Okay. But it's not that far from you, though. It's probably, hour and a half, 2-hour drive?
I think it's less than an hour and a half. Like, if you go down 85 from Atlanta, as soon as you cross the Alabama state line, you're basically in Auburn.
Yeah, well, that's clearly a different story driving up from the South to the middle of, like, central Pennsylvania or wherever Happy Valley actually is. I don't even actually know where it is, except it's somewhere in that rectangle near the middle. It's not on the eastern seaboard like, say, Philadelphia is. So it's
James did tell me he's flying some of the way.
Okay, well that's good. I was going to say that's a pretty rough drive, but I mean this game's going to have big implications if Penn State can pull it off because I mean they're already in the top 10. Ohio State's taken a loss already. So their college football playoff prospects are in a little bit of jeopardy, especially if Penn State can take advantage and grab control of the Big Ten East, which obviously no conference games have been played yet, but it's possible that when they meet head-to-head, that game could decide who represents the Big Ten East in the conference championship game. And if the answer is not Ohio State, then they're toast. And Penn State could potentially pull their way into a playoff position, too, if they can keep winning. So definitely keep an eye on that because I think Auburn's they don't really impress me this year. They seem like they're in a little bit of a down year or rebuild or whatever you want to call it. They're not quite ready for prime time.
Yeah, I agree with that. Also, Auburn got a new coach. They fired Gus Malzahn last year. I have no idea who their coach is now.
I saw Gus Malzahn. I forget. It's slipping my mind who he ended up coaching, but I saw him on TV a couple weeks ago, and I was like, holy crap. I just wasn't used to seeing him not with an Auburn visor on. I was like, wait a second, this doesn't look right. So.
Auburn's head coach is a man named Brian Harsin.
I have no idea who that is.
Never heard of him in my life.
Well, maybe we will soon enough. Maybe he'll make a name for himself.
Yeah. Auburn's quarterback doesn't impress me. He's not.
So he's like Jared Stidham?
He's better than Jared Stidham.
Okay, good.
But not much better.
Oh, my God, Jared Stidham. He's going to be the answer in New England, baby, even though he wasn't even good in college. He couldn't handle the SEC, but he was somehow going to handle the AFC East. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's talk just a little bit of baseball. I don't really have a whole lot to say about my New York Yankees. They're 3-7 over the last 10 and barely clinging to life in the wild card race. I think that our win against you guys last night bumped us back into the number 2 spot in the wild card.
It's like a 3-way tie almost.
I think we're half a game ahead of Boston and tied with the Blue Jays. The last I saw, I believe that was where we were at. But it's essentially a 3-game tie.
Yeah, the Yankees had a makeup game against the Twins, I think on Monday, And the Twins stink, so you're figuring, okay, the Yankees got to win that one. They fall behind 5-0, and
somehow came back.
Like, it was like 5-2 in the bottom of the 8th or something like that. I was just looking on my phone. I was like, wait, the Yankees are actually going to lose that game? They can't lose that game. There's only like 20 games left, and they got to get moving. They're actually behind right now. You can't give those ones away. It's interesting. They ended up pulling it off and winning, which is the only reason why they're currently in somewhat of a playoff position right now. And I think that their schedule doesn't look that kind, I guess. Like, they got to play the Rays and the Blue Jays. I think the Red Sox.
And the Red Sox, yeah.
Like, they've got this gimme series against the Orioles, although the Orioles have done, relatively speaking, okay against the Yankees this year compared to the Rays and what the Blue Jays just did to the Orioles, which I guess we'll get to in a couple moments. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to make of this because it's like a 2-3 shot because there's 2 spots available. It looks like the A's and the Mariners have faded, so it's going to be between those 3 AL East teams to scrap it out. The Blue Jays look like they're red hot. Frankly, they look like the best team among those crew. They've got the same run differential as the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah.
So that's a really good ball team. So it feels like it could very well end up being the Red Sox and Yankees deciding who gets to play the Blue Jays, but we'll see.
Potentially. We'll talk a little bit more about the playoff picture in just a minute, but first, Evan, as Eric just mentioned, you guys got boat raced by Toronto over the weekend. What's going on with the Orioles right now? Where are we at?
They still suck. It's not a surprise. They're really bad. This weekend against Toronto was particularly embarrassing. They had a big lead in the first game of a doubleheader on Saturday, and it got away. And then they had 1-0 lead in the second game of a doubleheader after 6 innings. And they only play a 7-inning game. They're up 1-0, end up losing in 7 innings, 11-1.
Yeah, wasn't that a no-hitter late in that game too? Like,
yes, they were throwing a no-hitter and then lost 11-1.
That's actually kind of amazing.
It was a very impressive performance.
And then on Sunday, while I'm watching Red Zone, I'm getting all these alerts on my phone that Toronto has hit 2 grand slams, and the Orioles lost, I believe, 22-7.
Yeah, it was a pie game.
Yes, they lost by a pie ratio. So, not good. And then they got beat by the Yankees last night. So the Orioles and the Diamondbacks are duking it out for that number 1 pick in next year's draft. Whichever team ends up getting it will certainly deserve it.
It's baffling to me that the Orioles could put us through a 19-game losing streak this year. We're chasing ignominious history and
own history.
And still haven't locked up the number 1 pick. Like, it's a legitimate race to the bottom with the Diamondbacks. I mean, if you're going to make us sit through that, let us have the pick. Like, come on.
We should have the top 2 picks.
Yeah, I mean, and we had to deal with the national media dumping on the Orioles for like 2 straight weeks, and yet the Diamondbacks get a pass, and they might get the number 1 pick. It's not right.
I mean, honestly, if you guys do that badly and then don't get the number 1 pick, I think that just means you deserved all that from the media.
Couldn't even do the tank right. Exactly.
Yeah, we got out-tanked.
So looking at the playoff picture, Eric kind of wrapped up the AL East pretty well. The one thing that's going to be interesting is that because Toronto, Boston, and New York still have dates with each other over these last 3 weeks, not only does that make it really difficult for any of them virtually impossible for any of them to close the 8-game gap up to Tampa Bay. Like, that's not happening. But it also starts to blur that line. I mean, you said that it seems like Oakland and Seattle have kind of faded, but they're both within 3 games. So can they all stay ahead of them? Or could that beating up lead to one of them getting in and then the other 2 falling behind either Seattle or Oakland? It'll be interesting to see how that wraps up. I mean, each team is down to their final 15 to 18 games or so.
Hey, if those West teams want to get back in it, though, they got to start winning again because the Oakland's 3-7 in their last 10, and the Mariners are only 500 balls not going to get it done.
No,
because
not down the stretch.
Like you said,
it's not the end.
Like the issue is that yes, you can make up ground while these teams are playing each other, but you also can't go 500 because they're effectively going 500.
Right.
So you have to win all your games because you got to pick up ground on somebody.
Yep, exactly.
So each time you win, you pick up ground on the Blue Jays if they lose, or the Red Sox if they lose, or the Yankees if they lose. If you lose a game, you don't pick up ground on anybody.
Right.
So, you got to win a lot more than you lose the rest of the way if you want to close down a 3-game gap in the last 18 or 17 games or however many are left.
Yep.
And the Yankees only have 2 more games against the Orioles. They're going to have to play some actual teams.
I think they get
down
the
the
Twins
stretch.
for a series.
Yeah, we do get
though,
the Twins for a series, which potentially helps, but
granted, it's not the playoffs, so they're not guaranteed wins.
that is true.
And though if it was the playoffs, I'd be like, okay, the Yankees are fine. But they actually regular season, they are actually allowed to lose to the Twins in the regular season.
We
Playoffs,
are.
October,
We
different
checked. We checked the rule books, and
It
we are.
happens sometimes. In the playoffs, never.
We've been trying to get an amendment to that rule, but so far no dice.
I get why you feel entitled to it just based off of October. Like it feels like, wait, we lost to the Twins. Like, yeah, but it's May, dude. It's okay. Relax.
No, the Yankees don't play the Twins. They have the Rangers next
the
week.
Rangers.
So
That-
worse.
Yeah,
the
that's
Rangers are
even better for
worse,
us,
so,
hopefully.
Yeah, but they finished the season Boston, Toronto, Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
So
It's
good luck with those.
Yeah, that's a rough stretch where whoever wins the games is gonna get the playoff spot. So
as we head into these last 3 weeks, really less than 3 weeks, only the Dodgers and the Giants in all of Major League Baseball have locked up playoff spots. Milwaukee should have the NL Central locked up in a matter of days. They've got like a 15 or something game lead on second place in that division. I think the White Sox have a 12.5 game lead in theirs, so they should also have theirs locked up within the next week or thereabouts. And then in the National League, just looking at the wild card race, the Cardinals definitely have their work cut out for them because obviously 17 games up to the Dodgers. There's a reason the Dodgers have locked theirs up is because nobody can catch them for the wild card, at least for the first one. So the Cardinals are currently sitting in that second wild card, but they've got the Reds, Padres, Phillies, and Mets all within 4 games of them. Who do we think is going to take that second wild card in the National League? And granted, the Phillies and the Mets are also within, I think, 5.5 games of the Braves, but
they're not catching.
It's unlikely that they'll catch that. So they're really fighting for that second wild card.
To me,
I think this is a situation. The National League should go back to the old playoffs where there was only one wild card because none of these teams are playing like they deserve to go to the playoffs. No. Right? The Padres seemed like they were locked to get the second wild card, and they've just fallen apart. The Reds are mediocre. The Phillies are, poor, and the Mets are a complete disaster.
Mets can't stop shooting themselves in the foot.
Oh,
they're sub 500, man. Like if it's mid-September and you're sub 500, I don't want to hear about you making the playoffs. Like just get out.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't deserve to go to the playoffs. The baseball playoffs are for really good teams only. All others need not apply.
Well, they used to be until they went and expanded and decided they wanted a 1-game playoff.
I'm just mesmerized though by the Reds choking their asses off because they had a cakewalk schedule. We talked about this on here a few weeks ago, where we thought that the Reds would take the control of the wild card because the Padres had such a brutal schedule, having to deal with the Giants and the Dodgers in their division. And that's played out like we expected. They keep losing to the Giants and the Dodgers. They're getting their asses kicked against that tough schedule. But the Reds had the Cubs, who gave away all their good players, the Pirates, who are terrible, and the Cardinals, who are mediocre as hell. And they keep losing to the Pirates, and they keep losing to the Cubs. I'm just like, they
lost to the Pirates last night.
Yeah, they are not beating the teams that are teed up to be beaten. And so here we go again, where this nondescript, boring, annoying Cardinals team is going to make the postseason by default. Because that's just the way St. Louis works. They just get there because it's there. It's like they have a seat waiting for them no matter how bad they are. Here's a spot in the playoffs for you. And you know what's going to happen? They're probably going to win the World Series now, too. Because they always do that, too. That one year they went like 83 and 79, and they won the whole damn thing. I was like, are you kidding me? This is outrageous. The 83-win team won the World Series, but...
Here we are.
Yeah, the Cardinals, they're going to upset the Dodgers in the wild card game. Yeah. That's going to happen.
Kershaw's going to pitch into the 7th again, and he's going to get rocked, and it's going to be like Matt Adams hitting 3 million home runs off him like he did that one year. It's just, it never stops. It really doesn't. I'm tired of them.
Also, Reds at Dodgers. No, Reds hosting the Dodgers this weekend.
I don't think it makes much of a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, Reds hosting.
Yeah.
So we'll see what
let's go ahead and move on to the meat and potatoes of our fall shows, the NFL. We'll start with a quick look back at last week. Quick pat on my own back for winning our confidence points for week 1, 92 points. I went 10-6, so the best record and the biggest points haul of the week. I'm right there at the 95th percentile of all entries in ESPN's Pick'em across their platform. Congratulations to James Daly. He was our listener winner for week 1. Went 8-8, but scored 81 points, which was the second most in our contest on the Pick'em League. So congratulations to him. He had a pretty good run last year in our confidence pool, and glad to have him back in it this year. Let's go ahead and look at our confidence picks on starting quarterbacks that we made all the way back. I want to say this was like in February or March. It was
shortly after the season ended.
It was shortly after the trade between the Lions and the Rams that swapped them Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford, because we actually got those ones right. So we definitely did it after that, because I doubt that all three of us would have predicted that before it happened.
Not with as much confidence as we did. That's
no. So Eric wound up winning our confidence points. Congratulations, Eric. 464 points. 23 out of the 32 teams he got correct. Both of those number one in the league. His biggest miss was 17 points that he put on Drew Lock starting week 1 for the Denver Broncos. But
hey, up till 2 weeks ago, it looked like it was going to happen. So
yeah. Well, we also didn't know at that time that Teddy Bridgewater was going to make his way out to Mile High.
Yeah, but even so, it looked like Drew Lock was going to be the starter over Teddy. But then people realized, like they should have a while ago, that Teddy's better than him.
Yeah.
But it just seems like nobody wanted to respect Teddy. So.
And speaking of Teddy Bridgewater, he was my biggest miss. I had him 17 points to start week 1 for the Panthers. I was not expecting them to get rid of him. So I finished second, 22 correct picks, 1 behind Eric, and 460 points total, so 4 behind Eric. So it was a pretty tight one between the two of us, but I missed a little bit more on those intermediate point hauls than Eric did. And then we got Evan. 439 points, so 25 behind Eric. 20 correct picks, 3 behind Eric. His biggest miss was 14 points that the 49ers would be starting Deshaun Watson in week 1.
Well, this isn't my fault, right?
Nobody's starting Deshaun Watson in week 1.
Yeah,
but the 49ers, you're going to put that kind of confidence points in a guy starting for a team that he is not currently rostered on?
He wanted to go there. That was one of his teams that he really
was
wanted
one
to
of several.
And it was
we made these picks back in February. Like, this was before all 22 sexual assault allegations against Deshaun Watson. This is before the 49ers traded up in the draft, not knowing who they were even trying to get.
That is true. It was before all the allegations. I'll give you that.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have put him on here if he had all the allegations.
So I'm curious, I guess we'd have to go back and look. Did any of us nail a quarterback that moved teams? Like somebody that was because I feel like we did.
I put everything I did the red and green on that one. So let me take a quick look.
Who did I put for the Colts?
I'm going back to look right now.
I think you had Wentz.
Yeah, I think you had Wentz.
But, Eric, you also took the longest time to submit your picks. Remember, you took 5 extra days just milling around.
I mean, I don't remember that, but I believe you, I guess.
All right, so here we go. Here's our starting quarterback prediction sheet. Eric had Carson Wentz 6 points to the Colts. So that was nice. Eric also had 5 points on Zach Wilson starting for the Jets.
Wow.
How did nobody else get that? I don't understand.
Because I put Deshaun Watson and Evan kept Sam Darnold.
Okay, well, I thought that was a pretty easy one because the Jets told us pretty much the day after the Super Bowl they're picking Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Eric put Deshaun Watson on the Dolphins with 10 points. At least I only put 1 point on where I put Deshaun Watson.
But that's pretty close given the fact that the Dolphins have been flirting with trading for him. So
Now, here's an interesting one. Who do you think Evan put to start for the Steelers in Week 1? Because it was not Ben Roethlisberger.
Oh, man. Was it Mason Rudolph?
It was Kyle Trask.
Oh, my God.
I thought they would pick him in the second round. I thought Roethlisberger would be old and busted. And they'd be like, you know what, Ben, it's time's to go.
I don't even know where Kyle Trask is right now.
None
of us got the Taylor Heineke team pick right, but he did end up playing in Week 1. He just didn't start.
I thought I had Heineke.
No,
Team
we
7.
all put Heineke on there, but he didn't actually start.
That was the show title. The show title was Heineke
Team 7.
Yeah.
Evan had Jordan Love starting for the Packers. He had Aaron Rodgers starting for the Colts. Evan and I both got Justin Fields to the Falcons wrong.
Well,
that's who they should have drafted.
They should have.
That was dumb.
They truly should have.
Because Matt Ryan's washed.
But, they didn't.
It looked like a chalk outline on the field yesterday.
I definitely feel pretty good about putting 30 points on Russell Wilson, considering neither of you even put 20 on him to be starting for the Seahawks.
Well, he was bitching up a storm.
He listed a bunch of teams that he would like to be traded to.
I'll give Evan credit, though. He put 18 points on Jameis Winston starting for the Saints, and Eric and I both were under 10 points on him.
Okay.
Oh. Yeah. That seemed like a no-brainer.
Well, given the fact that Taysom Hill was
so did Russell Wilson. But
given the fact that Taysom Hill was
Saints don't have any cap
ahead.
space to get anybody else.
Yeah, but they had Taysom Hill, and Sean Payton is, obsessed with him.
I guess that's true. Kyle Trask is on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, apparently.
So he's backing up the GOAT.
64th overall pick.
The best pick that Eric had as far as one that all of us got right, but that was a big confidence disparity. Evan put 10, I put 8 on Daniel Jones with the Giants, and Eric put 19. So congratulations, you got Danny Dimes right.
Yeah, because the Giants are obsessed with that bum. I don't know why. But I even said, I don't get it either, but they're going to do it, and sure enough, here we are.
Yeah, he sucks.
So let's talk some Week 1. Start with some best and worst from Football Outsiders quick reads. Best quarterback of the week was Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs. He was fantastic. And, of course, he's got two of the best receiving targets in the game in Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Ryan Tannehill was the worst of the week at quarterback, which, I mean, I know he wasn't great, but I didn't think that he was the worst quarterback out there.
He got sacked like 1 billion times, which it wasn't really his fault. Taylor Lewan just sucked. Chandler Jones ate his lunch all game. It was almost as bad as watching Max Crosby tear up Alejandro Villanueva. We will get to that, and we'll get to him
shortly.
Especially, I know Evan's got a lot to say. I got plenty to say about that guy, too. So we'll get there. Don't you worry.
God.
That will be fun. Running backs. As far as total running back, or total, passing and rushing, Jamal Williams was the best of the week, which, what a week for Detroit Lions running backs.
It's bizarre, man.
I mean, both Jamal Williams, at least in our league scoring settings, and I would imagine that other leagues can't be so different that there is this big of that there'd be a huge differential, but Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift were both top 6 running backs in fantasy this week. Not to mention, TJ Hawkinson was like the number 2 or number 3 tight end of the week. So,
is that a garbage time stat?
I mean, a fair amount of it was, but they wound up, they went to overtime, didn't they?
No.
Okay.
They lost by 8.
Oh, right.
Right.
They had the ball at the end and had a chance to try and drive.
It's a hell of a back to recover. A lot of people would consider that a bad beat. They were down 24 points at the 2-minute warning, and they managed to cover an 8.5-point line.
Yeah, that was wild.
Well, that's brutal.
So Jamal Williams was the best running back by total DVOA, and by just rushing DVOA, it was David Montgomery. The worst running back by total DVOA was Devin Singletary, who was a top 5 running back when you just consider rushing. And the reason he dropped so much was because he fumbled twice on receptions.
And he didn't exactly do much with the other 3 targets that he got.
Right, I think he only caught one of them.
Yeah, and it was for 2 yards on a 3rd and 8. It's just a useless play.
Clearly, should not be the guy that you are targeting in full PPR leagues. You barely want to target him in a half-point PPR probably at this point. So the worst running back, just considering rushing, was the Steelers' rookie running back, Najee Harris.
I find that surprising.
Well, the Steelers were terrible on offense. They sucked. They couldn't move the ball at all. They won because their defense stifled Josh Allen. They got a big punt block towards the end of the game.
Yeah, their defense is still
balls
phenomenal.
Out. Yeah, it was a great defense.
Just phenomenal. Best wide receiver / tight end, so best receiver of the week was Jarvis Landry, and he was great. I mean, if you saw the spin into the end zone that he had on that one touchdown, I mean, he just was willing himself toward the end zone. Like, he should have been stopped about 5 yards short and just spun off of two guys and got the ball across the goal line. That was really impressive.
Yeah.
Jarvis Landry had a fantastic game.
He also got some good value out of that double reverse that they ran where he busted a nice run. I think he picked up 23 of his yards above replacement on that play. So some of that chunk came as a rusher. So he had just an all-around very effective game for the Browns, who played a great game on Sunday. So no surprise there.
And the worst of the week was my boy, Allen Robinson, who, this was one of those where it wasn't necessarily entirely his fault. I mean, he did actually get 3 first downs on 6 targets, or was it 6 targets or 6 receptions?
I don't know.
I forget, but he picked up three first downs, but everything else that he got was just short gains. They were not targeting him down the field. I don't know what Nagy is doing in Chicago. Why
he doesn't either?
Why is Andy Dalton your starter? I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't hate Andy Dalton, but I think we saw last year in Dallas, his starting days are behind him. They just are. Put Justin Fields out there. Like, he barely saw the field this week, but the little bit that he did see, he looked solid.
He completed his first pass and he scored a touchdown. So
he looked solid for not having an opportunity to actually get into the rhythm of the game.
Or get the first team reps in practice.
Yeah, so put him out there. So
I did enjoy how I actually had a hard time finding quick reads on Football Outsiders this week.
Yeah, they reorganized everything this offseason.
Well, they reorganized and they normally it titles it Quick Reads Week 1. That's it. This week they said they typed QR Week 1. Will Allen Robinson ever get a good quarterback? So I saw that and I was like, I didn't. QR did not register as
quick reads
because it also kind of looked like QB. So I was like, what? I was like, okay, I don't know what that is. And then I went to. I also know where the historical stuff is, so I just went to analysis, found quick reads on there, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's what that story was. But
I just found one of the drop downs where quick reads showed up as one of the links.
So Allen Robinson he was targeted 11 times.
He had 6 receptions,
catches for 35 yards
and 3 first downs.
3 first downs. I mean, but that's 11 targets for 35 yards.
You don't want to have only 3 first downs on 11 targets.
Yeah, that's bad production. And again, it's not really his fault. It's just a bad quarterback situation. And I pointed this out on Twitter. Other people, some other people noticed it, but it's not enough apparently. What the hell's the broadcast doing on Sunday Night Football? Collinsworth just acting like Matt Nagy is just doing all the right stuff here by starting Andy Dalton, when the entire damn world and everybody in the stadium can look at it and say, why isn't the first round pick starting over this guy? This guy can't play anymore. It's not like Andy Dalton has earned any clout. And people keep going to the same stupid arguments about this, about how, Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith for a year. I'm like, okay, firstly, he probably shouldn't have sat behind him the whole year.
Knowing what we know now, yeah.
Because they went to the playoffs that year and lost to the Titans with Marcus Mariota, in part because Alex Smith loved the guy, good football player, and even better dude. He just didn't have the bag that Patrick Mahomes does because nobody has that bag. And if Mahomes was out there in that game, they might have been able to win it. Secondly, Alex Smith was a damn Pro Bowl quarterback. 3 times over. He had led that team to the playoffs multiple times. He had a winning record. Andy Dalton hasn't had a whiff of that kind of success in 6 or 7 years now. He is a backup quarterback.
Even at his peak, Andy Dalton was not like an all-pro quarterback. He was a good starter.
He had that one year with Tyler Eifert where he looked like an MVP until he got hurt.
Right.
And that was it.
Beyond that,
that was 6 years
ago. He was a
ago.
serviceable starter. but that's about it.
And he's not that anymore
No.
because he came off the bench in a division that was as bad as we've seen in a long time, and he came in with a tremendous offense with
And granted,
all those
he did suffer an injury, and that affected what happened down the stretch with the Cowboys. But he didn't do much of anything when he was on the field.
When he was on the field, he was trash.
Yeah.
He couldn't do anything with that team. And of course, the irony is the fact that the Bears could have had him on their roster as a backup for like $3 million. And so then the following year, after he stinks it up in Dallas, they somehow managed to bid themselves up to paying him $10 million. And they post on Twitter, they call him QB1, and they show a picture of Andy Dalton photoshopped in a Bears uniform because he clearly hadn't worn one yet, given the fact that it was April. And it's just like, what are you guys doing? It's almost like the Twitter team just put that out there, so Matt Nagy said, well, we declared him QB1, so I guess we got to keep giving him reps until he turns to dust, or we just have to move on from him at the end of the year. This is ludicrous. And people keep saying stuff like, oh, well, they didn't want to face the Rams because of the pass rush. I'm like, okay, but he's going to have to face a good team at some point.
Yeah.
You can't
Lots
sit
of
there
teams
and
have
coddle
good
him.
pass rushes. You can't play an NFL season without facing a handful of them.
It's ridiculous. I mean, we talked about this just before the season started. This division is not that good. I mean, the Packers look like the only good team in it, and they laid an egg, so we don't really know if they're going to be good with all the drama they're going on. So the Bears made the playoffs last year. Now 8-8, but they made the playoffs with Mitch Trubisky.
They had the MVP.
And Mitch Trubisky didn't even play the whole year. He played like half the season, and they got the worst of Nick Foles, and they still managed to win 8 games. You can't tell me that team with a decent quarterback, even if he makes rookie mistakes and has some struggles, couldn't make a playoff push. And in my opinion, if you have a chance to make the postseason, even if you're not really a Super Bowl team, you got to go for it. So this idea of let's have him sit behind the veteran, what's he going to learn from Andy Dalton? Andy Dalton has not had the level of success where you can actually say, okay, this is how I become great. Because Andy Dalton's not great. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like he's sitting behind Brett Favre. People could use the Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre example. Brett Favre is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a 3-time MVP.
Rodgers, but yeah, like what are you talking about? This isn't apples and oranges comparison.
Like they brought this guy in because they literally didn't have anybody else, and then on draft day they decided, hey, we can get somebody good here. I mean,
then you don't start him.
It doesn't make because Matt Nagy made a promise to Andy Dalton, and of course people were saying stuff like, well, "What do you expect him to go back on his word?" No, I expect him not to make the promise in the first place. He's Andy Dalton. He's not entitled to any promises from a head coach because he's not good anymore.
I mean, you just explained to Andy Dalton like, "Hey, we made this promise to you, but this is business, and the circumstances changed now."
Or just don't make any promises to Andy Dalton because you know you can't commit to him because he's Andy Dalton and you don't want to actually have him as your starting quarterback.
Well, say you over-boogied and made the promise. You can just go back on it.
I mean, at
right?
that point, I say, yeah, like you
Absolutely, you walk back the promise. But if you're one of those, moralist people that just like you can't break a promise, well then don't make a stupid promise.
Right.
That's
Also,
what
get
you
out.
did.
You should. I mean, really? Like this is a competition,
football.
right? In the NFL, you're playing football, not morality competition.
Yeah, fingers crossed behind my back like we're in 3rd grade to get out of starting Andy Dalton. It's ridiculous. I'm sure he would be fine crying on the bench with his $10 million. I'm sure Andy Dalton would not mind.
So let's talk about a few of the teams that played this past Sunday, starting with our team, the Washington football team. And, boy, we decided to start Ryan Fitzpatrick, and immediately he goes down. He's gone for, 6 to 8 weeks, I think they're saying.
Good long while, yeah.
So he's going to be gone for half the season, which looks like it is going to end up being Heineke Team 7 for the next 6 to 8 weeks, 7 weeks, maybe.
I mean, if he plays well, he's going to keep the job.
Probably, and I think that he will. I mean, I've been saying that I think that he's the better option than Ryan Fitzpatrick. You guys haven't wanted to hear it. Look,
that's not saying a whole
I'm not
lot.
going to say that Heineke was great on Sunday because he wasn't, but for not getting any first-team reps since like the first week of training camp, for sitting behind Fitzpatrick ever since then, I think he did a pretty solid job of coming in and keeping Washington in that game.
I'm not knocking the guy because from the few moments that we've actually seen him play, he's been pretty decent. Like, he played well, like we said, against the Panthers when he came in. When Haskins was benched, got hurt. I don't even remember why it doesn't matter. And then he played in the playoff game, and he hung with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he played a decent football game that game. So I'm not saying that he hasn't shown some capacity to be good. I just have a hard time believing in the guy long term for a season or even a half a season to think that he's going to be able to play well. I mean, it's a lot to overcome given the fact that he has never been this guy before. He's consistently been a third, fourth string quarterback throughout his career. So it's just,
it's not common for a guy to like all of a sudden burst on a scene. So, obviously skepticism makes sense.
Yeah, the trepidation is understandable.
But the eye test, at least my eye test, suggests that this guy could be a solid quarterback.
I hope you're right, because I would like to think that the team will be able to compete this year. Because if he stinks, then they're going to stink. And that's the end of that. And that's going to hurt my fantasy team, too, because I've got Logan Thomas in one league, and I've got Terry McLaurin in another league. And I'm like, I kind of need the quarterback to be able to get these guys the ball. Now, Logan Thomas did catch a touchdown pass.
From Taylor Heineke.
And McLaurin made that sweet-ass catch from Taylor Heineke. But that was kind of it. And now the Chargers defense.
That catch was amazing.
That was an insane catch.
Like that was probably the one throw by Heineke. I was like, ew, that was
not a great throw. But
it should have been intercepted.
It really should have.
It was ugly, but and
way too much air under it.
It also pissed me off when they showed the top 5 plays of the week on Red Zone, and that one was not included. I'm like, okay, those catches were nice, and I realized they were touchdowns, and that's what Red Zone's all about is the damn touchdowns. But that McLaurin catch was so much more impressive than any of those other plays.
Evan, your team, the Baltimore Ravens. I know Eric has also got some things to say about this one. A wild finish to that game on Monday Night Football in Las Vegas. In overtime, the Raiders appear to have scored the winning touchdown. Those points get taken off the board. They say that he was half a yard short. A couple plays later, the ball is tipped, intercepted in the end zone. The Ravens get the ball, and then Lamar Jackson taken down, fumbles, recovered by the Raiders, and was it the very next play or 2 plays later? I think it was Henry Ruggs who just got completely open.
It wasn't
just
Henry
a little
Ruggs. It was some guy named Jones. I don't even know who he was.
Whoever it was. I know
Zay
Ruggs
Jones
had one like wide open catch that he should not have been that wide open on. I guess that was early in the game though. Whatever happened, somebody got completely open. It looked like the Ravens defense was just like, well, now we just give up.
It was a weird sequence because the Raiders got the ball already in field goal range, and it seemed like they were content just to kick a field goal.
They were about to.
But then they screwed up and took a penalty, and so they were kind of in long field goal range at that point, so they had to put the offense back on the field, at which point the Ravens are probably just saying, okay, we got to go all out to get a sack, force a turnover. So they went balls to the walls to get to the quarterback, get a tackle for a loss.
But there was nobody downfield.
They didn't cover anybody.
Carr didn't have to put anything on the throw.
He just flipped it up there. Just lofted it up there, and the dude ran under it and had an easy touchdown. But that was I was looking back at the game. I was like, how the hell did the Ravens lose this game? Like, they were in control throughout the first half. They seemed like they were in control down the stretch of the game, and they just couldn't finish.
Evan?
Yeah, so, just about to run some people out of town after week 1 here. We will start with Alejandro Villanueva, one of the worst football players I've ever seen in my life. What?
Nothing. Damn, I was trying not to mess Evan up.
You did anyway.
I did anyway. I forgot. Yeah, I was doing the get him.
Oh. Okay.
So I couldn't help but think about that.
Yeah, so I texted my dad at 11:59 p.m. on Monday night. I was still a little irritated, to say the very least. My dad is a Steelers fan, and the Ravens got Villanueva from the Steelers. So I said, you were 100% right. He's a fat, unathletic, stiff, incompetent turnstile out there at right tackle. Can't block anybody or anything. I've since cooled off, and this is still how I feel about Villanueva. He was just like a tree standing there. The defensive ends for the Raiders would just walk right by him. He just couldn't move his feet. It was some of the worst offensive line play in the regular season I've ever seen out of any Ravens player ever. So I'm willing to buy him a one-way bus ticket to wherever he wants. That is a gots to go. My God. So the Ravens only have 51 people on their 53-man roster. The other two guys better be some offensive linemen from somewhere. Eric DaCosta always talks about the extra draft picks. We got to get the compensatory picks in the third round, the fourth round, the fifth round. Well, Eric's going to have to package some of these picks to some other team and get some real offensive linemen in here. Ronnie Stanley looks stiff and slow as well. But he's coming off a horrible ankle fracture from last season. So fortunately, all the center snaps were good. That was an issue last year. Let's see. And then the defense. The whole defense, like this is supposed to be the Ravens defense and stuff. The Ravens defense doesn't just let people march right down the field on them to tie the game late 3 different times in the fourth quarter. Like the Raiders could just do whatever they wanted on defense. And Wink Martindale's sending blitz after blitz after blitz, and none of them are getting home, leaving Waller and Ruggs and Zay Jones wide open. Or single covered. I mean, Waller's just a beast. He went to Georgia Tech, so that's a point for him, I guess. He was there while I was there for, I think we overlapped for like 2 of his seasons. Then he was drafted by the Ravens, had his drug problems, which was certainly mentioned on the broadcast, and I'm so glad he's doing well. Just generally in his life, in addition to being a good football player. But this Ravens defense, man, they have to generate an effective pass rush, and they need somebody either at outside linebacker or at safety who's just going to ruin the offense's day. Now, perhaps I'm spoiled, having watched Ed Reed for his whole career, but ever since Ed Reed left the Ravens to go to the Texans, I think, or the 2013 season, that's been the glaring hole in the defense, is to have a guy back there who just makes it a disaster for the offense. So the main people I'm disappointed in, certainly the offensive line and Alejandro Villanueva, supposed to be this free agent signing. It's supposed to be good. He was supposed to be a lock for the right tackle position. He was anything but. And you have to think, like, if the Steelers are willing to let a guy go to the Ravens, obviously he's not any good anymore, right? Like, that seems like a no-brainer now. And then the defense just didn't get it done in critical situations. Needed a big sack, a big stop, like one in the fourth quarter and didn't get it. So, and then they came up with the big stop in overtime. When the game was pretty much lost, and then, the offense fumbles the ball right back to the Raiders. So, got to protect Lamar. And if you're going to give the guy $500 million, seemed like you'd want to protect him, right? Like, that's how I feel. So on to week 2, and the Kansas City Chiefs, who are actually a good team, unlike the Raiders. So I have low expectations.
So I'm assuming that since he played so poorly, that Alejandro Villanueva went into a press conference and addressed the media and the entire nation and the team and said, wow, I really messed this up and I was terrible and I need to get better and I apologize, right? He said that, right?
I haven't looked out for what
he didn't say that? Really? Because this is the guy that makes everything about himself all the time, so I'm surprised he didn't feel compelled to acknowledge his shortcomings. He did this when the Steelers refused to come out for the national anthem because they wanted a unified front during all of that shenanigans with Trump. And who was the one jerk that decided, hey, I need to circumvent the process and screw my teammates over and stand in the tunnel with my hand over my heart? Oh, it was Alejandro Villanueva. And then last year, when the Steelers decided that they were going to wear somebody's name that had been killed by police in an act of brutality in the Pittsburgh area, Villanueva decided he was going to tape over that with his own guy from some guy that got killed in Iraq. Again, making another issue all about himself, having to be the center of attention, having to be what about me? So why haven't I heard from him when he blew the game for the Ravens? Because if he plays remotely well, the Ravens probably win the game. Where was he? I haven't heard a peep.
He was probably on his butt, just watching.
Where's he at?
Defensive end.
Come on, man. Mr. Attention Whore. Okay, bring it. I want to hear more from you. Oh, you can only do so when you're grandstanding for your nonsense political views, but when it comes to actually doing your job and doing it very poorly, you can't take accountability? What's going on here? I just don't understand. Disappeared. Where's he at?
So it with Villanueva, I feel like the game of football, just like all the Raiders defensive ends, has passed him by. It's not there.
Yeah, he needs to go. He can't play. And he's also just a pain in the ass. I am not an Alejandro Villanueva fan, as you could probably tell. And when I noticed that Max Crosby was cooking him all game, I just kept thinking, couldn't happen to a nicer guy. It really couldn't.
Oh, goodness gracious.
The
Ravens play the Rams later this year, so
have fun with that.
Yeah.
Better be ready to run, Lamar. Let's talk about one of the most fun games that we saw this week on Red Zone. Browns-Chiefs. Saw a lot of action from that game on Red Zone because that was a competitive matchup. Browns led through most of that game. Chiefs came back late and won it because, of course, they did. Yeah. It's exactly what they do. We get excited to see that the Browns might actually get it done, and nope, disappointment city. That was still a really fun game, though. Baker played really well. I've seen him play better, certainly, but he had a solid game. Jarvis Landry, we already talked about, was the number one receiver, according to Quick Reads. They got some really good gains out of Nick Chubb, and Kareem Hunt played well against his former team. And the Chiefs were the Chiefs. They do what they do. You kind of know what you're going to get week in and week out, and especially week one. I mean, if you have Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce on your fantasy team week one, you may as well go ahead and chalk up the win. And that's exactly what happened in our league this week. If you had one of those guys, you won your game.
Yeah, I mean, I watched this game on Game Pass Rewind yesterday because I know we saw a lot of it, but I wanted to see all of it because it was such a good game.
Yeah.
And, because, of course, the ghouls get on TV and they say, well, Baker Mayfield can't close and all that. And I watched the game and I was like, dude, that guy was incredible. Like, he was throwing ropes everywhere. And, I'm just looking to see, and I watched it right after I watched the Dolphins and the Patriots game. And we'll talk about those teams a little later, probably when we do our picks. But it was just a stark contrast to watch Baker and Mahomes slinging the ball all over the yard while watching Mac Jones, who, to his credit, it was his first game, so the training wheels were definitely on for him a little bit. And Tua, who, I don't really know what to make of him, just kind of lobbing the ball for checkdowns and not looking all that impressive arm talent-wise. But, the interception that Baker threw that ended the game, it wasn't great, obviously. You never want to throw the game away on a pick, but at least he was trying to do the right thing. He was trying to get rid of the ball, and he got his legs swatted out from under him, so he couldn't get enough on it and ended up getting picked. Like, you can understand how that happened. Like, the pressure got home, and it affected his ability to do what he wanted with the football. That's how football works. That's what the defense is trying to do. And on the previous drive, he threw a dime down the field. It was a tough play, but the receiver could have caught it. It was in his hands, and he just didn't make the play, whereas Patrick Mahomes had Tyreek Hill, who was completely covered. Mahomes throws up just an absolute wobbly duck, and somehow Tyreek Hill, because he's Tyreek Hill, just stops on a dime. The cornerback completely overruns him, and then not only is he able to make the catch, but then he's able to re-accelerate to the end zone and absolutely dust the guy for the touchdown because, again, he's Tyreek Hill. So sometimes teams just have cheat codes like Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and seemingly Travis Kelce, who is always open. Like,
always.
And I watched about half the times that he was open, nobody even covered him off the release. I'm like, who's guarding Travis Kelce? Like, what's going on? And it's probably because they're worried about every damn other person on the field. Sometimes, somehow, you forget about the best tight end in the league, and it's just an embarrassment of riches for the Chiefs. I don't know how you stop that offense unless, it's like last year in the Super Bowl when their entire offensive line is destroyed and they can't get any protection. That seems to be the only way to get it done. Or do what the Browns did and score on every drive until the Browns stopped scoring on every drive, at which point they unfortunately couldn't hold on to the lead.
So
they also couldn't hold on to the ball on that punt.
Yeah, the punt, and then Nick Chubb had a fumble in the third quarter. That was sort of the turning point in the game.
Yeah, those hurt. Looking through quick reads by Football Outsiders quick reads, so Eric mentioned how good Baker Mayfield was, and just looking at quick reads, you might not get that impression because he's ranked down at number 12 this past week. But he did that without a touchdown pass in the game. He had no touchdown passes, 1 interception, and he still finished 12th. For comparison, Andy Dalton, no touchdowns, 1 interception, number 26.
Yeah, and
Matt Ryan, no touchdowns, no interceptions, number 29.
It's important to mention that this was also a very high production week at the high end at the quarterback position. So, I mean, Baker was ranked 12th, but he had 72 yards by DYAR, and his DVOA was like 27. That would put you in the Josh Allen category last year.
Yep.
And we all agree that Josh Allen was great last year. So
It
stands to reason to conclude that Baker was great in this game because he was. I mean, I think I saw somebody mention that they have a stat, completion percentage over expectation, which basically grades your completion percentage against the depth of the routes run and where you're delivering the ball. And he was best in the league in that metric. So, I mean, he completed 75% of his passes when he had the furthest depth of target of any quarterback in the league this week. So he was hitting on his throws. He just didn't necessarily result in touchdowns because they handed the ball off when they got in the red zone. That's not Baker's fault. That's just the way the offense is designed.
Yep. And now, you smell that, Eric?
I just raised my arm, so I hope it's not me. I put on plenty of deodorant.
Evan, did you get a whiff of that down there in Atlanta?
700 miles away.
I'm telling you, that stinks. That reeks. It's the Green Bay Packers, man.
It's that stinky cheese, baby.
Mm-hmm. What the hell happened with Green Bay this week? They got boat raced by the Saints, and
I don't know, but I loved it. I loved it.
Just a little more pat on the back for me. I put a point on the Saints to win that game, and you guys both went Packers with double digits.
That didn't work out for us, did it?
No, it did not. No. In fact, last week there were 3 total Lone Wolf games for us, and the Lone Wolf won all 3. So congratulations to us. I think Evan had the other 2. But
yeah,
I'll take that one with the Saints.
Wow.
I'll put in a go Chargers go. Once again.
Thank you.
Gotta pick the Chargers, man.
I picked the Chargers, didn't I?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I switched to the Chargers. Yeah. I don't think that was one of the Lone Wolves.
That wasn't it?
No, I don't think so.
You put a lot of points on the Chargers where we were a little more reserved.
Yes.
Yes,
that happened. Okay. So Evan's Lone Wolf games were, let me pull this up. He had the Dolphins, or no.
No, I didn't.
Wait, hold on. So I had 2 Lone Wolf games and Evan had 1 because I had the Dolphins over the Patriots. You guys both had the Patriots. And then Evan's Lone Wolf game was the Texans against the Jaguars.
What were y'all doing on that one?
Not believing in the Texans, which I still will not apologize for.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't believe in them either. But
didn't you pick them to not make the playoffs?
Yes.
Like your first overall pick.
So they're not going to, but
then why not pick the Jags if you knew that the Texans would beat them?
The Jaguars were available.
Yes, they were on.
They still are for all of us.
Yes.
Yeah, the Jags. I mean, the Jags are poorly coached. They have very little talent on their team.
So again, why did you not pick them to eliminate from the playoffs?
Because I know Houston sucks too.
Okay, well,
anyway,
whatever.
Back to the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, and the putrid stench that they let off.
So Aaron Rodgers, the other quarterback who had no touchdowns this past week, threw 2 interceptions, just his 17th career multi-interception game. He finished 31st on Football Outsiders quick reads.
He was bad.
Oof.
Only ahead of who?
Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
Oh, Tannehill. Oh, okay.
Oof.
Yeah, so I started Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams in fantasy. And needless to say, I did not win this week.
Yeah, I had Aaron Jones, and that pretty much cost me my game.
I had Rodgers in my other league, and I was like, dude.
Yeah, just brutal, man.
Absolutely.
Every time Red Zone switched to that game, the Saints had the ball deep in Packers territory after Packers turnover.
Jameis Winston, on the other hand, was number 2 on quick reads.
He was great.
Yeah.
He didn't have to do that much. He had like 145
touchdowns all over the place. The Packers just seemed completely uninterested. Like, it's like they found out the season ended a week later this year, and like they act like they assumed it started a week later as well. They just weren't ready to play at all.
I don't think that they arrived at the right address for this game. I think they thought this game was supposed to still be in New Orleans.
So maybe they thought that there was still a 4th preseason game and that this was it. Aaron was looking around like, wait, why am I playing preseason week 4? What's going on here? This game's in Jacksonville. This isn't right. And just yikes, man. Because the Saints scored a touchdown, I think, on their opening drive. And I remember, because that was before Red Zone even cut to that touchdown that they scored. I was keeping up with it because, that's my team. And I was, 7-0, good start. And then the Packers went what looked to be a 3-and-out, but then they went for it on 4th down, on like 4th and short, like deep in their own territory. And I was kind of like, that's a surprising decision that they went for it. But they picked it up, and I figured, here we go. They're going to get the momentum now because they took a big risk early in the game, and it paid off. And the next thing I know, the Saints have the ball again, and I'm like, wait, they got to stop. And then they scored another touchdown. And then I see Red Zone, Aaron Rodgers throws a pick. Apparently he took a double nut shot on that play. He was whining to Pat McAfee about that today or yesterday. And I'm like, that's amusing, but it's still a pick. Like, if Brett Favre can get bounty gated as he's throwing a pick in the playoffs, you can take a couple of cleats to the nuts and still, throw a pick and have it count. Sorry. I don't know what to tell you. But it's just, you're right, Evan. It looked like the Packers weren't interested. Marshawn Lattimore completely shut down Davante Adams because, Marshawn Lattimore's good, but Marshawn Lattimore's not supposed to be that good, right? I mean, Davante Adams is supposed to be one of the 3 best receivers in the league. Some would make the case that he's the best receiver in football at this point. And Marshawn Lattimore's a good corner, but you wouldn't say he's Jalen Ramsey good. You probably wouldn't say he's Marlon Humphrey good. He's a Pro Bowler, not an All-Pro. And he destroyed an All-Pro for 60 minutes, or not even 60 minutes because he didn't play that long. They decided, to move off of Aaron because they're getting their asses
Generally
kicked.
speaking, you would assume that the best wide receiver in football would beat even the best cornerback in football at least half of the time.
You would figure he would have some production. He wouldn't be stuck on Revis
beat
Island.
him once.
Yeah, at least half of the time. The only exception to that really that I've ever seen in my life has been Darrelle Revis.
And Darrelle Revis, you could make the case in his prime was as good of a corner as we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Since maybe prime time. Like that. Even then, you might still make a case.
If we're just talking, peak versus peak, I'd probably take Revis.
Especially that if you just look at that one season, that 2009 season that Darrelle Revis had, where he shut down Chad Johnson twice. He shut down Randy Moss, I think, twice. I mean, just insane performance from him that year. And Marshawn Lattimore, again, love the guy. He's a really good player. Absolutely owns Mike Evans. But Davante Adams isn't Mike Evans. He's better than Mike Evans. And yet Marshawn Lattimore owned him and then got paid, and now he's hurt. So,
he got hurt?
Yeah, he suffered pretty minor injuries. But he is expected to miss probably a week or 2, which is disappointing. But the Saints shouldn't really need him this week against the Panthers.
You hope not.
Yeah.
So the Packers DVOA from this game, minus 94.6%.
I'm surprised it wasn't worse than that, man.
I think the unadjusted is minus 101.1.
Well, I don't even know how they have adjustments yet because it's been 1 week.
I don't know how they do adjustments either, but apparently they do. So.
I reached out to friend of the podcast, James, this evening. He's a Packers fan. And
how's he doing?
He said just one game. Last year, the Super Bowl champions lost to the Saints 38-3. So, with a shrug emoji.
That is a good point. The Buccaneers did lose to the Saints 38-3.
They did.
And they won the Super Bowl. But the thing about the Packers, though, is their schedule is brutal.
It's pretty tough. I think the remaining schedule is like the 12th hardest.
I mean, but just based off of what we think we know, though, forget that's based off of last year's win percentage. we all pretty much agree the NFC West is probably the best division in the NFC.
Yeah.
And the AFC North is probably the best division in the AFC.
Yeah.
And the Packers have to play both of those.
Yeah.
And they have a first place schedule, which is why they had to play the Saints. And since it's week 7, since they're having 17 games now, they get an extra first place against an AFC team, and it's the Chiefs. So,
oh boy,
like, they did not get any breaks. The only break you could make the case that they got was the fact that a first place team was the Washington football team because they won the division last year. And even then, I wouldn't say that's an easy win. I mean, Washington's defense is really good. They might not score a lot of points, but they're going to make life hell on Rodgers while he's out there. And that's the big thing that happened with the Saints is they got home. Their front seven really affected Rodgers a lot. Maybe it's because David Bakhtiari isn't back yet, but it's just, yikes, man. I don't see how you could look at that game, especially when you compound it with all the drama from the offseason, with Aaron basically flirting with being the Jeopardy host and basically going on Kenny Mayne's Last Sports Center and basically telling him, hey, the culture sucks there, and it's not even about money or anything like that. These people just don't do what I want them to do. And then he shows up to training camp and ethers the whole damn organization again, doesn't play any games in the preseason, and then his first appearance on a football field since all of that happened, and this happens, it's like, it's hard not to take something from that. You know you're not supposed to do it because it's week 1. You're supposed to be measured and not overreact because everybody loves to freak out after week 1.
Yeah, but he didn't even come out to tell us RELAX.
He effectively did, but he didn't use that, which he should have used that.
He should have.
If he had done that,
it might have actually relaxed.
I would have been like Al Michaels, and I would have said, I'm relaxed, because that's what he did when Rodgers did that back in 2014.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the Packers have that rough schedule. They don't even get to play the Bears until week 6. So by that time, Matt Nagy might come to his senses and put their better quarterback on the field. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Packers going forward this season. I'm not going to necessarily call them dead in the water by any means, but that was a rough opening week.
The thing is, though, I still think they should win their division, but it helps to be able to get a top seed or, a higher seed.
Yeah.
And you lose a game that was sort of gift wrapped for you because the Saints are a tough team, but they didn't have to face them in the Dome, and they still lose in horrible fashion. With that tough schedule, they could end up only winning maybe 10 games at best. At that point, you're playing on the road for 3 games to get to the Super Bowl, or at least 2. So
yeah,
that's
their only
tough.
saving grace is that they're in the division they're in. If they were in a tougher division and had to play some of these teams, like you said, the Chiefs and the AFC North. I mean, the Bengals won on Sunday, right? The Bengals first place right now. So, it's they got the Lions this week. They should roll the Lions, but at 49ers on Sunday night. It looks like Sunday night football at 49ers. Like, jeez. Steelers.
That has not gone well for the Packers the last couple of times they've had to travel to San Francisco.
No, it has not.
You know who else is a first place team, Evan? All by themselves. The Houston Texans.
That's
really?
true. The Houston Texans.
They're the only team in their division.
The only team well, I mean, that doesn't surprise you, right? That division stinks, but yeah, they're the only ones because the Titans got their asses kicked and the Colts lost to the Seahawks.
If the season ended today, Evan, your first overall pick of who's going to be out of the playoffs would be in the playoffs.
Not a very good playoff eliminator there, Evan.
Oh, okay. Well, the Eagles that you picked also won on Sunday.
Yeah, and they looked kind of good doing it. So.
Yeah, they toasted the Falcons.
Hey, they're in first place all by themselves, too, because everybody in the
true.
NFC East lost.
That's true. I'll shut up.
They might have home field advantage throughout the playoffs.
I picked the Lions, and the Lions are tied for first place because everybody in that division's 0-1. It's like, what's going on?
This is the NFL, people. Strap in. It's a fun ride.
My goodness.
Let's go ahead and get into our Week 2 game picks, and then we'll circle back and do our second round of eliminations from the playoffs. So we'll start Thursday Night Football tomorrow night. Eric's got the team with 2. Evan's got the Washington Football Club with 3. And I've got Washington with 8. So went a little bit higher on the confidence than you guys did. Not ultra high, but quite honestly, I think that if Taylor Heineke was not the starter, I probably would have been down where you guys are. But he is, and I think that he's the better option for us. And I think that gives us a pretty good shot to beat a pretty bad Giants team. That said, I'm still a little bit nervous about those 8 points because it is Washington and it is prime time.
Yeah, that's always the tough thing. Like, You're probably right about the confidence points here because while Washington's offense is probably going to be middling at best with Heineke as their quarterback, the Giants are so bad.
And Washington's defense is good.
Yeah, and Washington's at least got some good pieces. Like they've got a unit that's great, and then some groups on their offense that are pretty good. And they got Antonio Gibson. They could realistically just hand him the ball every time, even if you don't believe in Heineke, and still win this game. So, I mean, yeah, probably should have gone a little higher on the team, but it's Washington in prime time. This is just history is not on their side.
I certainly don't blame you guys for going low confidence.
Yeah, very hesitant with this one. I went a little conservative with some of the picks this week.
I'm going to be biting my fingernails through a lot of tomorrow night, I have a feeling.
Yeah, I picked WFC. Daniel Jones sucks, man. He's awful.
Giants line sucks. Their defense sucks. Saquon is banged up already.
I mean, this is the same. I mean, this is the same thing as last year with Saquon. You know, a lot of carries, not a lot of yards to show for it in week 1. Kind of banged up a little bit. I mean, I hope that he doesn't have a perfect repeat of last year because week 2 is when he suffered the ACL injury.
Yeah, we're hoping that doesn't happen.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, it's impossible to have that kind of production that we associate with a talent like Saquon Barkley when the rest of the team is so bad.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like when you know that they can't throw the ball, you just stack the box, and he ends up with less than 2 yards per carry.
Like you don't even have to stack the box because they can't block either. There's nothing here.
Yep.
David Gettleman, you should have updated your resume probably about 4 years ago, but now I think you really need to because your boy Daniel Jones is about to lose his job, and when he loses his job, you lose yours too.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Patriots at Jets on Sunday. Just a very briefly talk about this one because I'm a little bit higher in my confidence on this one than Eric and Evan. Eric's got 4 on the Patriots. Evan's got 7. I've got 11 points. It's really it's the Jets. The Jets are still not good. Their defense is really bad. Zach Wilson, he didn't really impress me that much this week. He wasn't terrible, but he also wasn't good.
He looked like cuter Sam Darnold to me.
Yeah, Corey Davis had a good game for them.
Your boy.
But he's about all they've really got up there in New York, and that's not enough to beat the Patriots. So
yeah, Elijah Moore will probably be good at some point, but
he will.
He's a rookie,
but he's a rookie, and he's dealing with a rookie quarterback making his first starts. They're not going to be a consistent hookup,
and still a not very compelling offense as a whole. The line's not good. He's going to have his struggles, so it's probably going to take, like you said, you talk about it every year, 8 weeks or so for a rookie wide receiver to really get in sync with the quarterback. There's some exceptions, but that's usually a pretty safe bet, especially when the quarterback is also a rookie.
Right. Yep. 49ers at Eagles. I'm going lone wolf on this one. So Eric's got the Niners with 9 confidence points. Evan's got them with 5, and I actually went with the Eagles with 1 confidence point. The team that I eliminated from the playoffs. Here I am being a hypocrite.
I'm going 2-0.
I am picking them to go 2-0. I'm a little bit nervous, honestly, after, making that, eliminating them from the playoffs last week because granted, it was the Falcons. Falcons are not that good, but the Eagles looked pretty good in that game. Jalen Hurts looked, I already thought that Jalen Hurts was going to be all right this year. He looked better than all right to me. Devontae Smith looked good. Talk about a rookie wide receiver who actually kind of breaks out early on. I don't know that this is going to be a consistent thing week to week because it's really difficult for rookies to be consistent like that. But I'll tell you, I'm not looking to drop him from my fantasy roster at any point. I'm probably not starting him yet, but he's going to be on that bench. And if I see some consistency from him, he'll jump up into one of my starting spots because wide receiver is definitely my weak spot.
Shout out to the guy on this podcast who had Devontae Smith high in his wide receiver rankings for fantasy. Oh wait, that's me. Yes, told you he was going to be good.
That feels eerily similar to when Jared Cook for the St. Louis Rams had a huge game in Week 1 against the Cardinals, and this guy was on the chat saying, "I got the steal of the draft, baby! I snagged Jared Cook. He's going to be a top 3 tight end."
And what did he do the rest of the year, Eric?
A whole lot of nothing. So let's
wait until we actually see some things. I could bring up that the Eagles right now are number 3 in DVOA because they are, but they're still number 22 in Dave because we know that this is most likely not actually a good team.
No. And the thing about Devontae Smith, though, that I never bought into everybody was freaking out about the fact that he's so slight. Like, he's not very big. He's only like 170 pounds, like soaking wet. But the thing is, it's not like dudes are small in college. The issue in college, from the NFL to college, is more about speed than size. Because the guys are just as big in the NFL, and they're way faster.
Yep.
But if Devontae Smith could take a hit from a safety in college, he's not going to turn to dust when he gets to the NFL. It's a matter of, can he still separate? And the answer is absolutely yes.
Yep.
There's no doubt about his route running, his dynamicism. Here we go. It's now a podcast word. Jesus Christ. And he's obviously got the speed, the route running, the ability to catch the football. I mean, he showed all that at Alabama, and he was just wide open all the time. I'm not expecting him to have the same level of success because the competition is a lot better, but when you show that ability in college to separate, size, yeah, you might be a little worried about durability, but as far as ability, when he's on the field, he's going to be effective.
Yeah. So my biggest concern with the 49ers it was really just the way that they kind of fell apart at the end of that Lions game. That definitely gives me a little bit of concern. The fact that Ryan Mostert is out. I mean, what's his name? Mitchell, I think, who came in. He played pretty well.
Mitchell, yeah.
Yeah, he played pretty well. But is that going to be a consistent thing? Because he hasn't really seen a lot of action at the NFL level. Deebo Samuel had a good game, but Brandon Ayuk was a complete no-show on Sunday. And the defense, that's really what kind of broke down late in the game. And once you do that, I'm going to assume that you have a propensity to do that from time to time. It's still a good unit overall, but clearly it's not soundproof. So I like what the Eagles did this past week. I think that they've got a little bit of momentum. They play at home in this game. So I decided to go ahead and take a shot and put a point on them to win this.
Yeah, I just didn't want to overreact to week one with both the Eagles beating the Falcons because, the Falcons, I didn't think were going to be good. I think they're going to be worse than I thought because, we figured their defense would still be, as is tradition, really bad. And it was on brand, not very good. But their offense was just atrocious. And the Eagles' defense is not supposed to be a strong unit for them. And it was on Sunday against the Falcons. So, and I don't want to read too much into what the Lions did coming back on the 49ers. The 49ers controlled that game for the vast majority of it. They fell asleep late. You figure they'll button that up. It's week one shenanigans. I have to assume, I'm not going to say the 49ers are going to lose to the Eagles after I picked the 49ers to win the division and I didn't have the Eagles anywhere near the playoffs. I can't do that after just 1 week where both teams won. It's not like the Lions beat the 49ers. The 49ers still won the game.
Yeah.
So I'm still going to stick with them with a decent amount of confidence against Philly.
That's fair, and hopefully you're right. I mean, if you are, and the Eagles lose, it'll be a great day for the Washington football team and therefore the world.
And also for you, so that you're not starting sweating bullets early because your first pick, the Eagles, is going to make the playoffs because they're going to win the division.
That too. I just want to make a South Park reference after you said as is a tradition. So.
Oh, well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Raiders at Steelers. Evan, you've got some very high confidence in the Steelers. To beat the team that just beat the Ravens. I've got 3 on the Steelers to win this game at home. Eric's got 6, and Evan has double digits with 11 points on Pittsburgh.
Well, the Raiders are a mediocre team. The Ravens offense just failed to execute, as with the defense on Monday night. But the Raiders, going off of the small sample size, I think they're not as good as they looked on Monday. And then the Steelers impressed me the way their defense just stifled Josh Allen and the Bills. Like the Bills, they couldn't even cross midfield for most of the game. Like the Bills couldn't do anything. Raiders going to Pittsburgh. John Madden's not coaching this team, back in the 70s or whatever, but still going to be the same result. I think the Steelers roll the Raiders. It's not going to be a good game to watch if you're a Raiders fan. I don't think.
I mean, I put a little bit more on the Steelers than Corey, but I'm more inclined to lean his way than your way in this case, Evan, just because Ben's cooked.
I'm not going to sit here and say that the Steelers are better than the Ravens. And if that's not the case, then why shouldn't the Raiders have a shot to win this game? Like, my only reason to pick the Steelers was honestly that they're at home.
And Ben's cooked. Like, that dude is washed. He can't play anymore. He is not quite 2015 Peyton Manning, but my goodness, that dude cannot throw the ball anymore. He is done. I mean, if you go look up his Pro Football Focus grade for this week, it was the worst I've ever actually seen a quarterback be graded that's a starting quarterback. I've never seen a quarterback graded that low. Now, it's one game, but still, he is cooked. Like, he can't play anymore. They won that game because their defense is incredible, and they had just enough on the outside on the offense to make plays as Ben was throwing up wobblers. I mean, it's just, that dude can't play anymore. And I can't trust a quarterback that can't play to win games against good teams. I don't think the Raiders are a good team, which is why I picked the Steelers. But, I mean, I gave the Steelers 6 just because I had to put less on some other teams I trust a little bit less.
The Steelers are at home, and they've got a really good defense. So, I gave them the nod, but I'm not loving it. That's a game that I wouldn't be shocked if I got wrong. So, Bengals Bears. We got to talk about this one because Eric went lone wolf on the Bears with a point. I've got 4 on the Bengals.
I'm
sorry,
I didn't
Evan.
do that.
Yeah, Evan went 1 point on the Bears. I got 4 on the Bengals, and Eric's got 3 on the Bengals. So, Evan, explain yourself.
Just a hunch. Maybe Fields gets in this game and lights up the Bengals. That's really it. The Bengals are bad. We know the Bengals are bad. The Bears, their home opener, just a little hunch that, maybe the Bears win in a squeaker.
Yeah, I just don't think that this is the week we see Justin Fields because
not at least not like consistently enough for him to really have that big of an impact on the game, right?
Like, I'm not talking about the occasional play they bring him in. I'm talking about as the starting quarterback.
He's not going to be like impactful on this game. He's just not going to be on the field enough to be.
Yeah, and the Bears' defense is not what it once was. 3 years ago?
It's been a few years since they were really that defensive.
And they were good last year, but I feel like they're worse this year. Their secondary is not very good. Their pass rush didn't really do anything to bother Matthew Stafford in that game. He did whatever he wanted. I actually thought that you could make the case, regardless of what the numbers say, Matthew Stafford looked like the most effective quarterback. He
had a great week.
He just didn't have to throw as much as Mahomes did because he wasn't in a competitive game.
And he didn't have the 5 touchdowns that Jameis Winston had.
Right. So he did a little less, but with what he did, he was terrific. I just don't see the Bears' defense being effective enough to make up for their lack of offense. I mean, the Bengals' offense looked good. In fact, that game against the Vikings was closer than it should have been, and granted, this could become a problem because Zach Taylor, I keep wanting to call him Zach Stacy, the running back. Zach Taylor is an idiot. He decided to go for it on 4th down deep in his own territory when he was up 2 touchdowns or something like that. I'm just like, what the hell are you doing? Just a complete bonehead move. That guy can't coach. Like we questioned his hire a few years ago when he was hired. That guy stinks. And that could cost him this game and many other games. But as far as what's actually playing between the lines on the field, Joe Burrow looked good. Jamar Chase, he is, my goodness. That guy's good, man. He played us all.
And Joe Mixon had a great game.
Yes. I mean, Jamar Chase played us all, though. With the I can't catch. It's because I practiced with a college ball, which he didn't really say, but the media kind of twisted it. And he went out there and pieced up Patrick Peterson all game.
He did.
And Patrick Peterson is not in his prime anymore. But he's still a good enough corner to not look like that against a rookie unless that rookie is special. Jamar Chase looked like the real deal. He looked like this year's Justin Jefferson, which makes sense because he went to the same damn school and played on the same damn team as Justin Jefferson. And as Evan and I have said many times on this podcast, he was actually the better player than Justin Jefferson. And Justin Jefferson was amazing last year and figures to be pretty good this year too.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to watch more of him. He was terrific. The price to pay for that was the line was still bad. Burrow got sacked a lot, and that could be a problem against the Bears. But, again, Andy Dalton. Although it is a revenge game.
It is a revenge game.
Revenge game can be very motivating.
I know you put 8 points, but, I had to explain myself when I put a point on the Saints last week.
And he won.
And I had to explain when I put 1 point on the Eagles this week.
And I think that's probably
crazy.
Win because that just seems to be how the season's going so far.
Seems to be. We won't talk about the Texans at Browns other than to say that all of us put 16 points on the Browns. It's the second week in a row that we've done that.
It's amazing that we're at
we all put 16 on the Rams last week.
So for all you Baker haters out there, none of you are probably listening to this podcast because only a handful of people listen to the show. But who would have ever thought that people that watch sports would ever be putting max confidence on the Cleveland Browns 3 years ago?
Much less against the Houston Texans if you'd asked us 3 years ago.
Regardless, but on any game. We are that confident in the Cleveland Browns, who 3 years ago were coming off of what? 0-16 season that was coming off a 1-15 season.
3 years ago, I was picking the Browns sometimes just because I kind of liked the Browns, and it was like a running joke on the show.
Yeah, let's go Browns. Yeah, I don't understand how anybody could say, "Oh, look at how good the roster is." The quarterback's the most important position on the field, and I don't see how you can have a team as a high-level Super Bowl contender like most people have the Browns, while also trying to argue that the quarterback is mediocre. It just doesn't compute.
Nope. We will talk just a little bit about Vikings-Cardinals because Evan's got low confidence on the Cardinals in this one. I went 10 points on them to defend home field. Eric put 7, and Evan put 2 on the Cardinals. So where's the concern as they get set to face Minnesota?
Your boy Cliff Kingsbury. I can't trust this guy.
That's
really
fair.
Good point.
I'm not gonna. I can't argue that.
That's a stinger.
Man, I now I want to drop my points down a bit. I can't. But
he came with the facts, man.
Enough
Can't
said.
trust this guy.
Don't even have to say anything else. But if you'd like to, feel free.
Yeah. The Cardinals played well on Sunday. They rolled the Titans. But
Kyler Murray looked amazing.
Yeah.
And
don't
DeAndre
get the
Hopkins,
sense that,
as expected, looked amazing. And Christian Kirk looked amazing.
I just don't get the sense that it's sustainable. Maybe the Vikings are looking to buckle down after they had a whoopsie against a terrible Bengals team. I think the Vikings bounce back, and I think the Cardinals also bounce back, but, bounce down. And then Cliff Kingsbury, he's going to, have a blunder, have a brain crap in his pants. So, it's just not feeling the Cardinals.
Well, I will see your Cliff Kingsbury crap in his pants and raise you one Kirk Cousins, who loves to screw games up. And he's on the
I was
other
amazed
side.
that he didn't accidentally kneel the ball.
I was waiting for
situation.
it. He was probably.
I was waiting for it too.
He probably wrote it down on his own. Like, Mike Zimmer probably grabbed it and said, "Here, I saw what you did with Jay. I'm not gonna let this happen with me." And so he probably just forced him to remember what to do. But I understand where Evan's coming from. The Cardinals were a mixed bag last year. They had some games where they beat the Bills on the Hail Murray. And despite the fact that they won on a Hail Mary, that was a really competitive game with the Bills. And the Bills were great last year.
This just feels like a different Cardinals team, though. The offense looked great. The defense looked fantastic,
Having
too.
Chandler Jones healthy is a huge deal. He was not healthy last year, and that cost their defense so much of what they do. But
meanwhile, Minnesota is middling in both areas. And look, Minnesota typically has a pretty good defensive unit, and they weren't so bad this week that I'm going to say there's no way that they can bounce back and be a good unit this year. That's still within their capacity, but I don't know that 1 week removed from having kind of a dud by their standards on that side of the ball, they're going to be ready to deal with the athleticism and everything that Kyler Murray brings to the table.
What alarms me a little bit, though, about the Vikings is the fact that they had an awful day running the ball. Dalvin Cook averaged 3 yards a carry, and we haven't seen that happen very often, especially against the Bengals, who figured wasn't going to be a great run-stopping unit this year. Certainly nothing to to have them just stonewalling a top 5 running back like that, especially because of how successful they had been in the last year or so running the football with Dalvin Cook. But I feel like the Cardinals are better this year than they were last year, and I think it might not matter because I think their division is better than it was last year, and it was really good last year. So I have my concerns about them postseason-wise, but in individual games where they're not playing a really good team, I have a little more confidence. And let me just again say this. Sometimes we don't pay attention to the right highlights. Kyler Murray's throw to DeAndre Hopkins on that touchdown was actually more impressive than DeAndre Hopkins' catch.
And the catch was pretty
And the catch
impressive.
was really good. And nobody wanted to talk about the throw. That was a bullet. That was an incredible throw. And I was just like, everybody's like, oh, DeAndre Hopkins amazing catch. I'm like, yeah, but did you see the throw? Like, let's give the quarterback a little credit, too. That was
I don't know how
rope.
fast that thing was moving, but it had to have been pretty damn fast. And
I felt like
he did not have his feet under him. Like, he was on the move.
That looked like a baseball player making a throw because it was a baseball player making the throw. Yep. It was great.
Falcons at Buccaneers. Eric and I both have 15 points on the Bucs in this game, and Evans only got 6.
Yeah, I've been listening to little snippets of sports talk radio here in the Atlanta area, and the point.
Don't listen to them. They're obviously going to build up the Falcons. They're going to try and say that Week 1 was no big deal, but they lost to the Eagles.
Badly too.
No. That's not what they're saying.
They're probably
not what they're saying at all. Everybody agrees that this team's garbage. It's just the games in this. Yeah, the games in this division just have weird stuff happen. It's going to be closer than people think. Is all with these confidence points. I certainly think the Bucs win, but a funny bounce here, a doinked field goal there, and the Falcons might surprise you.
I don't know if I believe in the whole mysticism of the NFC South these days. I mean, there was a long stretch where you never saw the same team win that division twice in a row, and yes, every game within that division was a dogfight. The best team in the division could be playing the worst team in the division. It did not matter. It was going to be a tight game. I don't know if that's necessarily the case anymore. I think that when two good teams from this division play each other, yeah, it's a great matchup. It's hugely competitive. It's a lot of fun to watch. But when you've got a trash team against the defending Super Bowl champion and a Super Bowl contender this year, we think, I don't see any reason to be skimpy with the confidence points just because it's a division game at this point.
Yeah, I remember the last year's game where the Bucs played the Falcons and they were behind, and the sky was falling in Tampa Bay, and then the Bucs rallied and won, and then they didn't lose for the rest of the year. I think that these teams are in a different place now. I think that the Falcons are toast. I think Matt Ryan is done. He looks not quite as done as Ben, but similarly done. He is probably today's version of Eli Manning over the previous few years, where if you get any pressure on him, it's going to be a sack because Matt Ryan had underrated mobility in his prime. He could get out and move a little bit. He wasn't going to go burning it down the field. He wasn't Aaron Rodgers or anything like that. But he could escape the pocket and do a little something with his legs. That's gone. And there's no shade to him. He's 36. He's played a lot of football. It makes sense that in his latter years he's become a bit more of a statue. But he also never really had great arm strength. He's been sort of a hit the open man quarterback throughout most of his career, and that's worked great for him when he had Julio Jones and Roddy White and Tony Gonzalez, because there's always an open man. There's always one of those guys is going to get open. And even when he had Julio and Mohamed Sanu and Taylor Gabriel and those running backs, Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman, there was always somebody open. Now it's Calvin Ridley and Russell Gage.
Right.
Russell Gage is all right. He's a fine player, but there's not as reliable an open man, which is fine for most quarterbacks that are in their prime because they can buy a little time and they can make an accurate or strong throw to make a big play to make up for some of the inefficiencies on the down-to-down plays.
But that's not where Matt
Ryan's
is
not
right
there
now
in his career, and I think that, Evan, you said it, they should have drafted Justin Fields. I mean, I think Kyle Pitts is going to be great, but they should have drafted Justin Fields because Justin Fields can do all the things that Matt Ryan can't do right now. Now, again, Ryan's got the experience, but That's not helping right now. This
No.
team has been really, really bad since 2017.
Yep.
The last 4 years, they've just been an absolute nothing burger.
Evan went lone wolf on Cowboys at Chargers. We've had to go to Evan with a lot of these because he's kind of been by himself, if not lone wolfing, then going very low on the confidence comparatively. But I've got 2 points on the Cowboys in SoFi Stadium. Eric's got 1 point on him, and Evan's got 4 points on the Chargers.
I was actually surprised that I wasn't the lone wolf. I figured you would pick the Chargers. But...
You know, and that's the thing. Like, this is probably the one game where, somebody was going to go lone wolf. It was just a matter of who it was going to be, because I really kind of went back and forth on this. But ultimately, I felt like the Chargers didn't. I don't really feel like the Chargers won the game against Washington. I feel like it was a combination of Washington losing it and the refs kind of giving Washington a chance to win it. I don't know. The Chargers were okay, but I think the Cowboys looked really good against Tampa Bay overall. Defense was still not great, but it looked better than it did last year. Dak looked basically right back where he was last year. Maybe not quite, those first 5 weeks, but pretty darn close. Amari Cooper was sensational in that game. The biggest concern would be just Ezekiel Elliott he doesn't really have it anymore. But between the Chargers playing such a close game against Washington and the Cowboys, I still believe are the best team in this division as long as Dak is healthy. I've got to give them a slight advantage here, but it's a tough game. I went back and forth on this one several times over the course of the last couple days.
I didn't go back and forth at all. I knew I was picking the Chargers. Even though this is going to be basically a Cowboys home game, there's a lot of Cowboys fans in Southern California.
There's a lot of Cowboys fans everywhere.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of Chargers fans anywhere except for the place they left.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, this game's going to be a track meet. It's going to be 51-50, at halftime or something like that. Because Dallas's offense is really good, but their defense is so bad. Didn't they force 4 turnovers against Tom Brady and the Patriots? Or not the Patriots, the Buccaneers. Those can be kind of fluky. I think the Chargers hold on to the ball.
And 3 of them were fluky. The Hail Mary obviously basically was effectively not a turnover because who cares? And the ball that hit Leonard Fournette in the head that resulted in the pick, the Cowboys definitely didn't create that. And I feel like the fumble... one of the fumbles they earned, like the Rojo fumble, they punched that ball out. The Chris Godwin when he just got sloppy near the goal line.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
they're about to give up a touchdown.
Yeah, that was just Chris Godwin got a little careless because he wanted to get in the end zone.
I will give you this, Evan. The Cowboys, at least in week 1, it's a very small sample size, actually have a worse special teams DVOA than the Chargers. Which, how?
They missed all those kicks.
Yeah. Because the Chargers, I mean, we've talked about it ad nauseum on this show. The Chargers special teams unit is historically awful. So
yeah,
so that's an interesting little tidbit. But
special teams comes down to coaching because there's so many people involved in special teams and have so many different roles. It really comes down to communication and coaching on special teams. Are the guys playing hard on special teams? Do they practice enough? To execute every single time, that's coaching to me. So give me the Chargers in this one.
Let's say the Chargers defense looked pretty good last week. It seems like, hiring their first ever defensive minded coach and Brandon Staley may have paid off for that defense. It was already a decent defense as long as Derwin James was healthy, and he is. I mean, I picked Derwin James as my defensive player of the year this year.
Plus they've got Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram,
right?
A really good pass rush tandem.
Yeah.
So
I thought Melvin Ingram was on the Steelers now.
Is he?
I thought I saw him lighting up.
You might be right.
Melvin Ingram is he is with the Pistons.
Okay, well never mind. But they still got Joey Bosa.
I missed that move too.
So the point is they've got some defensive stars that they can rely on. I went with the Cowboys.
Y'all agree with me.
I went with the Cowboys sort of for the same reasons Corey did. I thought that Dak, after that first half, some of the balls, his throws to the outside looked a little bit soft. didn't have the juice on him. But in the second half, that seemed like that went away. And one of the things that made Dak, that a lot of people miss when they evaluate Dak Prescott, is he's probably one of the 2 or 3 best quarterbacks of delivering the ball strongly and accurately from a crowded pocket.
Yes.
Like when the pass rush is closing in, he doesn't have to bounce outside. He can step up in a crowded pocket with a short step and still deliver an accurate throw. So he can hang in there a little longer than most guys. And so it takes even more pressure to actually affect his ability to make plays. And we saw that on Sunday because we were just waiting, or Thursday, I'm sorry. We were waiting for that Buccaneers pass rush to get home and wreak havoc. And it looked like it was getting really, really close. And then Dak would be right on time hitting an open receiver. And to his credit, those receivers are open a lot because they're really good. And the Buccaneers secondary is probably their one area that they're not great. And they actually suffered an injury in that game, so that made it even worse. But I think that Dak has the ability to do that. I'm not going to write off Zeke because of this first week. I think that the Cowboys seemingly committed to not running the ball because they looked at that front seven of the Bucs and just said, we can't. So he might have a bounce back week
against the Chargers as well. The Chargers have a solid defense, so I don't know how much room he's going to have, but I can tell you,
it's not the Bucs
throwing 50-something times a game is not going to be sustainable for Dak. Like, they're going to have to control that a little bit.
Yeah, and part of the problem was, again, there was no way they were going to run the ball against the Bucs. And the other part of the problem is that Tom Brady was scoring every time, except for when they didn't turn the ball over. So, they had to keep throwing because they had to keep putting up points. So, but I think the Cowboys could win with their offense alone against the Chargers, who I kind of agree with Corey. They won, but they didn't show me a ton. And I think that the fact that they're going to be hosting the home team Cowboys is going to affect the game too.
So the tables turn as we turn our eyes to Sunday Night Football from that Falcons-Bucks game. Now it's me who has to defend my decision because Eric and Evan have 14 points on the Chiefs at Baltimore, and I've only got 5 on the Chiefs. And
what did you see in the Ravens on Monday night that makes you think that they could beat this Kansas City team, the 2-time defending AFC champions?
What I saw was a team that absolutely needs to bounce back and is going to be focused as hell in practice this week because that was an embarrassment on Monday night. I don't see them coming out as flat as they did against the Raiders this week. Now, that said, I'm still picking the Chiefs. I still think that the Chiefs will and should win this game. But between the fact that this is in Baltimore, because if this was in Kansas City, I'd be pretty much right up there with you guys. I'd probably still be a little bit under you, but I'd have double-digit confidence on the Chiefs because anybody going into Arrowhead, you'd be a fool to not pick the Chiefs to win that game. Doesn't matter who it is. But playing in Baltimore, a team that needs to bounce back, does not want to lose on national TV 2 weeks in a row, I have to believe that they're going to make this a competitive game, and they're not just going to lay down and let the Chiefs roll over them.
I just feel like the Ravens have personnel issues. Like, it's there's more to it than all the running backs got hurt. Like, running backs generally can be pretty replaceable. But like the offensive line was so awful. Yeah, Tyson Williams was solid, but they didn't use him in the second half.
No, they didn't.
He did blow a pass protection assignment.
Yeah.
But the guys
that's
who
going to happen from time to time
protecting,
from a rookie running back who was not expecting to actually see the field much this year.
Yeah, undrafted. But still, the Ravens' offensive line is an issue. The thing is Chris Jones.
Yes.
Very, very boring name. He's gonna be a problem on Sunday night. Like, I don't know what the Ravens are gonna do against him. They're gonna line him up against Villanueva, and that guy's gonna be doing his hands and licking his lips like Shaquille O'Neal in that GIF. And,
getting ready to eat those wings.
Yes. Oh my goodness. It's just brutal. So, for all the non-Ravens and Chiefs fans, y'all can probably go to bed early on this one. Hopefully the Ravens fans will be in the parking lot all afternoon, get nice and juiced up and ready to go. But I just don't think the Ravens have the horses to hang with this Chiefs team.
Didn't these teams play in Baltimore last year?
Yes.
Yeah, and that game went horrifically for Baltimore, and that was sort of the moment where I kind of gave up on the Ravens beating the Chiefs. I just kind of looked at it and I said, I don't think so, because I just don't think they match up well. I think that the Ravens are at their best when they can play man coverage, and they've lost Marcus Peters now, so that's a big loss for them.
Yeah.
And they struggled to play man coverage against the Raiders. Well,
how are you going to play man coverage against Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill anyway?
You're not.
You're going to get cooked, and that's the problem. Is the Ravens pretty much rely on playing man coverage for their scheme, and they can they convert to zone?
Maybe losing Marcus Peters forces them to focus more on zone.
Maybe it does, but I wouldn't trust a zone defense to stop Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes either.
You can't necessarily trust any defense to stop
them.
But
then I have to rely on the Ravens to keep up with the Chiefs, and honestly, the Ravens don't have any good receivers. I don't care about Marquise Brown. I don't think he's that good. I don't think
he's better this year.
That's
but
nice.
I agree. I don't
last
think he's
year was so bad that doesn't say anything.
I'm not impressed. Mark Andrews, I think, is overrated. Like, that dude drops the ball way too much. Like,
also, where was Mark Andrews on Monday night?
Yeah,
Mark Andrews, hello.
I pointed out.
For you.
You
got all this money. Supposed to be an elite tight end. Elite tight ends don't disappear on Monday Night Football.
I pointed out in our chat that Andrews dropped a ball on 2nd and 9 right before Lamar fumbled the ball in overtime. And I said that was a critical drop because, well, if they pick up that first down, Lamar's probably not dropping back and holding the ball as long, and he probably doesn't get strip sacked. So not being able to move the chains in that critical situation, which is the entire point of having a pass-catching tight end, is to make plays like that. He couldn't get it done. I just don't think he's that good. I think that the only reason he is as prominent as he is because he plays in an offense where the quarterback freelances all the time and buys so much time that all he has to do is run his big ass around enough to cook a linebacker or something after like 6 seconds, which any receiver or tight end should be able to do, and he just happens to be the one standing there open when Lamar finally gets an angle to throw the football. I mean, I just don't think he's actually, like, he's not a guy I would trust to beat one-on-one coverage in 3 seconds when I need a quick throw. That's just not really Mark Andrews to me.
No.
And the rest of the Ravens, I just don't think the defense was good enough against the Raiders. They did not inspire confidence. I don't see how they win this game. I just don't. I just don't think it goes well for them when they play a team like the Chiefs who can get after you with the pass rush. And I agree, Chris Jones is a boring name because I always forget that he exists. Pretty much because his name is Chris Jones. Like, I'm always like, the Chiefs got that really good pass rusher. What's his name? Chris Jones. Like, when they had Dontari Poe, I knew who that guy was. I knew who Justin Houston was. Like, yeah, I know who that guy is. Who the hell's Chris Jones?
Chris Jones sounds like an offensive
So,
lineman.
I mean, as y'all know, I'm a licensed distributor of purple Kool-Aid. And if I've got 14 on the Chiefs, I tell it like it is on here.
I just like how back in the day on the all sports crew, Evan always gave me grief for doubting Baltimore, and now it seems like I'm the one who gives Baltimore credit more often than he does with our picks.
I feel like
what do they deserve credit for after their performance on Monday night?
I don't know.
I feel like my disdain for the Ravens has greatly decreased because of Lamar. Because I really like Lamar Jackson.
Still can't stand most of their fans, but I do like Lamar.
I don't have any issue with their fans. I just didn't like the Ravens. But, with Lamar, I think he's more fun. So I can kind of get behind that.
And then Monday Night Football, Lions-Packers. We get to watch Eli Manning and Peyton Manning watch Lions at Packers for Monday Night Football.
I'm definitely watching the
So
Manning test.
Evan put 15 points on the Packers. Eric put 12 points on the Packers. I put 7 points on the Packers. Still think the Packers should win this game. They are at home. Don't trust the Lions. Granted, I did like what I saw from Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. I mean, they were good throughout the game. It wasn't just in garbage time with the two of them. They were strong throughout the game. And I did not obviously like anything that I saw from the Packers. So it makes me just a little bit nervous. I just don't know what to make of the Packers. Like, has Aaron Rodgers just given up? Does he not care for at all this year? I don't know. I just don't know. And because of that, I'm not willing to put a huge amount of confidence in them to win this game, even against a really bad Lions team.
So for all the griping that people do about, like, Tom Brady always getting calls and, that team that he plays for always gets all the whistles, no team has ever been screwed by the officials more than the Lions when they play the Packers. So I'll never forget that game a couple of years ago where the Lions were in control of the game and the Packers got on back-to-back like sacks of Aaron Rodgers. They got illegal hands to the face penalties called against the Lions when the defensive player had his hand in the Packers' chest. And then they blew a pass interference call. It's just like nothing goes right for the Lions in these primetime games. We talk about the team being snake-bitten in primetime games. The Lions, it's a different level, especially when they play Green Bay. Plus, I also have to consider the fact that I still think the Lions are bad, and I got to assume that the Packers are not as bad as what they showed, that they're going to get it together and actually be a competent team this year. I had to pick them with a solid amount of confidence.
The Packers got completely unpantsed and exposed against the Saints. So, like, if the Packers care about playing football in the least bit, they're going to have everything buttoned and snapped up and ready to go for Monday night against a horrible Detroit team. The Packers beat the Lions like a drum every time they play.
But that's the biggest concern I have is how much do they really care? How much do they want this? Because they sure didn't seem to want it against a good Saints team in week 1.
If they lose to the Lions, I'm picking them to not make the playoffs as my next pick when I can. Because there's no excuse for losing this game.
I completely agree.
If they lose this, then that's it. At that point, they might as well pick up the phone and trade Aaron Rodgers the following Tuesday.
Yeah. I mean, if they lose this game, I would consider cutting Aaron Rodgers from my fantasy team. That's how bad, right? That's how much a loss by the Packers in this situation would shift my opinion of them. Fine. You get every now and then you get waffled. It happens, right? But like losing to the Lions at home, where the Lions never win. When was the last time the Lions won a meaningful game at Lambeau Field? Right?
I don't even know.
Was it in the 50s?
I don't even remember last time they won one that wasn't meaningful because they had the Matt Flynn game.
Yeah.
Where Matt Flynn lit them up, but they benched Aaron Rodgers for that game because they locked up the 1 seed, and the Lions still couldn't beat him, and they were trying.
So the last time that the Packers lost at home to the Detroit Lions, they lost 31-0 in 2018.
What week was that? Was that a week 17 game?
Yeah, it might have been. That was late December. Before that, it was 2017 in November when they lost 30-17.
Yeah, Aaron didn't play in that game.
Yeah, Rodgers was hurt that year.
And then 2015 November, they lost 18-16.
That was the year.
And then you have to go back pretty far to see the next one. The next one before that was all the way back in, oh my goodness, I'm still scrolling. 1991.
1991.
Yeah, when they went to,
I wasn't even alive yet.
They went to the conference championship game. They lost to.
It was a month and a half before I was born.
That was like the best year the Lions ever had. And the team absolutely housed them in the playoffs that year.
So
okay, so in your lifetime, Corey, the Lions have won at Lambeau Field 3 times.
Yep.
Not very good.
And to be clear, I'm not predicting a 4th here. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Corey's got pretty decent confidence in the Packers.
I'm a little bit nervous.
He's
about
hedging
this.
a bit. Corey is hedging a bit.
Yes.
Evan and I are not because we just. I think Evan and I are in a place where we're just like Corey's like maybe this could happen, and we're just like no, it can't. That can't happen, right? Like we have reached the abyss if that happens.
That's where I was with the Ravens and Chiefs too.
Like,
maybe this can happen.
Like they can't possibly, look that bad again, right? Maybe they could.
I mean, the Lions are biting kneecaps off. They did fight hard against the 49ers.
They fought really hard for that cover. Gotta give him credit.
So
good cover.
That'll do it for our game picks. There are a few other games out there. Those will all be on our blog tomorrow. So be sure to take a look at that before the week starts officially with the New York Giants at the Washington football team on Thursday Night Football. Before we get out of here, we got to eliminate one more team each from the playoffs. Last week, Evan had the first pick and picked the Texans. Eric had second pick and went with the Lions, and I had third pick and went with the Eagles. All of them are in first or tied for first in their division, which is ridiculous. I won last week's confidence pool, so I get to pick first, and I am going to take the Detroit Lions. Mm-hmm. So Evan finished second out of the three of us with 76 points in confidence last week, so he gets the second pick.
Yeah, I don't know, man. There's a lot of good choices out there. After the horrible performance against a team I already picked, give me the currently coached by Urban Meyer Jacksonville Jaguars.
All right. And Eric. Finished third with 66 points. Just had to throw that out there.
Yeah, and I know you did. So I'm going to take the Tampa Bay. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to take the Atlanta Falcons. I think they're done.
All right. So after 2 weeks, I've got the Eagles and the Lions missing the playoffs. Eric's got the Lions and the Falcons out. And Evan's got two AFC South teams already eliminated with the Texans and the Jaguars. Can't say I blame you.
Be careful not to pick all four.
Right? It'd be easy to do.
It might be easy to forget. So that'll do it. That'll wrap up episode 160 of the Sports Ballers podcast. We're really getting up there in shows. If you like the show, if you enjoy what we do, please like, subscribe, leave a review. We do read reviews when they come in on Apple Podcasts. I don't know how to get to reviews on the other apps, or even if there are, to be quite honest. I don't know if there are places to leave reviews on the other apps, but there is on Apple Podcasts. And so if you feel so inclined, please feel free to read a review. We'll even read it on air. I'll give you a shout out and thank you guys very much for doing that and for listening. If you are listening live on Facebook right now, we appreciate you doing so. Feel free to interact with us going forward. I do keep it open on my phone throughout the show, just in case any comments come in. You can also get us after we're done broadcasting when we post it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts. And if there's another podcast service out there that you really like, drop us a line. Let us know. We can get it out on there too. But make sure to like us on Twitter. Follow us there at SportsBallers18. We put out links to our shows, links to our blog posts, whether it's our game picks, my weekly write-ups for our fantasy football league, and any other things that might come up throughout the season. You can follow me individually at Corey Puffett. Eric is at Quagmire67, and Evan is at Evan_Ash13. And we didn't get any mailbag this week. So Sean, Andrew, James, where you at? It's football season. It's time to start letting us know what you think and want us to talk about.
I noticed you left your lady out of that mix.
Well, yeah, Rashonda as well. But she doesn't really drop in that often. She usually doesn't email us. She just lets me know what she wants us to talk about.
Also, she doesn't even listen to the show when she's there with you while you're doing it. She's got headphones on.
She's not even here right now.
Most of the time.
Yeah, but she's usually busy with work. But anyway, if you have topics you'd like to hear us discuss, questions you'd like to hear us answer, email us. thesportsballers@gmail.com is how you can do that. Any shout-outs this week, gentlemen?
Nobody in my family has a birthday today, unlike the previous 2 consecutive Wednesdays. So I don't have anything. Shout-out to Cedric Mullins, who made an incredible catch, robbing Gary Sanchez of a home run.
I got the push notification. Haven't seen it yet, but he robbed a home run over the center field wall.
I didn't know they gave you push notifications for robbed home runs.
They did for this one.
Score. I mean, that's cool. So shout out to Daniil Medvedev for winning the U.S. Open and more significantly in a lot of people's eyes, defeating Novak Djokovic, stopping him from completing the calendar slam, which would have been the first time it's ever been done since Rod Laver did it in, I think, 1968, and also prevented Djokovic, for the time being, from taking the lead in all-time Grand Slams. It was a hell of a win for him. He did it in pretty quick fashion, straight sets, so a very impressive win, and hopefully he can keep it up, because it would be nice to see some new guys be able to consistently win tennis tournaments. So good work for him. And shout out to Norm Macdonald, and rest in peace.
Yes.
One of the great comedians of the 90s, a standout on Saturday Night Live. He worked the Weekend Update for a long, long time, and was infamously Turd Ferguson on the Jeopardy skit that everybody knows about. Just an all-time classic, funny dude. If you don't know anything about him, go on YouTube and you'll be there for hours finding his appearances on Conan or on Jon Stewart or any late-night show, and just him cracking jokes. And his delivery is so funny just because it's so casual and laid back. And he just drops these dimes with his timing and stuff. He's just an outstanding comedian, and he will be missed.
Yeah, one of the guys in my faculty fantasy football league, his team name is Turd Ferguson. So
there you go.
I'll give my shout out to my cross country athletes. I think I've already done that once this season, and hopefully I'll have more opportunities to do so. They've been working their tails off. Had a great performance this past week. Up at Centennial High School. They finished third place, and this was a meet that 3 years ago we finished dead last in. So
Centennial High School.
Yep. So
in Howard County.
Yep.
It's a home game. Where was that race when I was on the team? Oh my goodness.
Team is gelling pretty well. Really working their tails off and working together as a unit. I mean, I love coaching these guys. They're so supportive of each other. I just love working with them. So excited about that. Hopefully I'll have some more opportunities to shout them out as we get further into the season. We're about 6.5 weeks away from our conference championship meet at this point. So for Eric and Evan, this has been episode 160 of the Sports Ballers Podcast. We want to thank you all so much for joining us and supporting us. And we can't wait to be back with you guys in 1 week with some week 2 highlights and week 3 picks. Until then, see ya.